Hello folks, I'm back again and I wanted to talk about the Dragon Turtle. The Dragon Turtle is a model that was included in the World of Dulcere Dungeons and Lasers campaign. I just got this the other day and I've got it all painted and mostly assembled. I did not assemble the shell yet. In fact, I'm not even sure I want to, because you could almost you can put things inside of it and actually use it as a little storage box. What I might do is make magnets that kind of hold it a little bit more in place so it doesn't get knocked around too much. But yeah, it just kind of fits onto the top. This was not, it wasn't a super easy model to assemble. I mean, I'm kind of up in the air with this thing because in all of their models, in one hand, I really love the detail. On the other hand, there's a lot of gaps and stuff, and the instructions. So I'm really bad to go look up instructions if they're not included in the box. I'm just gonna try to figure it out, and and they weren't bad. Like, I've seen a lot of people kind of upset in some comments and stuff like that online, and mostly on the Facebook groups and stuff like that. The assembly on some of these things, it's not super intuitive, but I do, the method I use is I just assemble all the subcomponents I can. I get all the smaller parts of this. Like, I figured out, the two components that make up the feet, or the two components that make up the head, and maybe how the tongue works in there and stuff like that. And I start assembling those little pieces, and then I see how they fit into the larger piece overall. Like, the shell comes in these two pieces, and so it's hard to test fit it, because I was wanting to test fit, the way this bottom part, because this is also two pieces, I think, or something. Anyway, so it was really hard to test fit it. It just wouldn't work. So I kind of just assembled the shell part and just hoped. Basically, I just made sure that seam was as close as possible. That's the other thing, is on these things, I did a lot of green stuff. If you don't know what green stuff is, it's a two-part resin epoxy, and it comes in like this little roll of putty. You can buy, Games Workshop sells this for a lot, but you can buy really, really long rolls. Like, this is maybe a quarter of the roll that I had originally. So I buy I buy about one roll of this a year. I went through less than a quarter of it, making the last Dungeons and Lasers campaign. I use it on almost every model that I assemble from them, because there are all these gaps. It's a really rigid plastic, so it doesn't give very well. And sometimes in the assembly, especially if you get it just slightly off or something, there'll be a gap, or maybe you didn't trim it effectively or something. I want to blame myself for this thing not fitting together, but I think there's something about when you create molds and stuff, they get changed slightly, and it has to be like a very, very precise fit to put together. For the most part, I think they put their mold lines in places that aren't ugly and kind of make sense as gaps and stuff. But I do find myself wanting to fill it in. What's unique about the turtle here is that you can get in on the inside. And so without the shell on, I kind of started assembling the bottom part of this. And then without the shell on, I just went inside of here and I filled in the gaps. It's really easy to kind of like pick the model up and look through it like with a light on the other side, and you can see where little pinholes and stuff are, and just go through and fill it in. That epoxy resin, though, is very, very sticky. So after you mix the two colors together, it gets really super sticky. So if you're going to work with it, what's great is to have a wet paper towel next to you and kind of keep your fingers wet, keep any tools that you're using to sculpt wet, and you can work with it. It's hard to be really clean and precise, or I haven't figured out a good way to do it. I'm not particularly good at using this. Working with these models has made me better because I've had to do it a whole lot. But like I said, I'm not the best. Doing it from behind seemed to really work well, because I could fill in the gap. Like, I could kind of push into the crevices and stuff, and I'm not having to like pull away excess from around. Like, usually I've got the model assembled and I'm pushing it in. I can't get on the inside part. So I did the sub-assembly with the turtle. I filled in the gaps and stuff like that. I just primed it with Games Workshop Gray Seer Gray. That's what I use pretty much for most everything. I don't do the zenithal or anything like that. These models with all their big gaps and stuff, they probably would benefit from it. I knew I was going to hit it with contrast paint first. And what's been working really well for me is hitting the contrast paint first, and then sometimes doing highlights with like regular acrylics, like dry brush with regular acrylics, and bring out some other highlights or add a variation to the color. My color scheme for this one is basically mostly this green, which is sort of a camo green, and this brown grimy color that I've fallen in love with. I think it's like sewer or something like that. Something is what it's called. But it just makes like a really interesting rich brown that isn't leather and isn't wood and isn't fur. You know, it's kind of, it hits a different color range, kind of like a creamy brown. I went over the whole thing initially with those two colors, and what I do when I paint a model like this and I can't decide on the color scheme, I kind of look to nature and try to find something. And this doesn't, I'm not saying that there's a turtle dragon to go check out, but this guy looks a lot like he's inspired by a snapping turtle, like just a monstrous snapping turtle. So I went and looked at them, but they're like all brown. They're really, really drab looking. So I decided to do the shell and a lot of the armor and stuff kind of based on that snapping turtle, like a real life snapping turtle color. And then I added green because I don't know, he's some monstrous creature from another world. I don't know if there are probably some green turtles, not anything that looks like this, of course. Not any big snapping turtles. They're mostly brown, but mostly I liked the way these two colors look together, and I decided to do that. So on the original version of this guy, he had all these drippy, slobbery stuff going all down his tongue and all through here. I decided just to cut it out. I wasn't confident I could paint it. I wasn't sure. I kept going round and round about what color I would paint that, what that would look like and stuff. But mostly I decided I just wanted it to be clean. I just want to see teeth. I just wanted his teeth and maybe his tongue hanging out or something like that. So I decided to go in and clip all of this out. And I went in with an X-Acto blade and I kind of reformed some of the teeth and stuff like that, and I trimmed down the excess on the tusks and stuff that were coming out, and I sort of trimmed it down on the tongue. I didn't do a perfect job. In fact, I meant to leave a little bit. In fact, I painted in a little bit here. I meant to leave a little bit of slobber there and kind of just tone it down a little bit, but I ended up just, once you start removing it, it was easier just to keep removing it. So I took a lot of that out. Once I got the initial colors on the armor and the shell, I decided it was too dark. It looked good, but it wasn't really showing off the details. So I went in with this khaki color, and it's and I dry brushed that khaki color over the top of all of these things, and it really made a big difference. It made it look much better. He's still kind of dark to look at. I think under the right light is probably okay, but for the most part, he's a little dark. I decided to use that same khaki color under here. I have not washed it or anything. I was kind of just deciding how I felt about it, but I didn't do a wash or anything. This is mostly going to be down on the ground all the time. Nobody's really going to be seeing this that much. It's already getting some wear and tear. It does sit pretty much directly on this thing, so versus the foot pads. But this didn't really feel like it needed a wash or anything. I just kind of left it as is. Then of course we have the little the Viking boat here, and this I painted with a color. I was looking for something besides wood. He was already very brown, and I didn't want to add more brown to it. Every now and then it seems like you'll see wood, especially up by the ocean or something. It's been dried out. It's and it takes on this kind of like strange gray color. And I found this blue-gray paint that I haven't used very much, and I decided to use it on here. It came out really good. It was another, I can't remember if this was a speed paint or a contrast paint. I think it was one of the speed paints. But this thing is neat. It is an optional component. It just fits here on the top. This is the way the assembly for all of their models go. If you kind of look around, you'll see that there's a place where it's supposed to go. In an exact way it's supposed to go. And it's not like, it's not locked on here. It easily comes off, but it's not going to easily get, it's meant to be there. You know what I mean? So that's kind of fun. The way they kind of puzzle pieces into there. There's no need to glue it at all. It's good just the way it is. The only other color I painted on this was this rope, which I did with Agros Dunes, just to make it a little bit different color than the toes and stuff like that. The toes and the teeth and all these things here, I went in with a bone color. I think it's skeleton bone, the Games Workshop skeleton bone. Went in and did all those things. That's my typical go-to for the claw colors. Oh, I did paint so I wasn't sure if these were splashes or they're supposed to be like part of his like little wings or something. Like, I wasn't sure if he was supposed to have webbed feet and maybe this was some sort of webbing also, or if that was water and he's splashing around. It kind of seemed like webbed feet to me because I didn't see it anywhere else. So I just extended the same color, and I picked another green color that's it's a little brighter than the camo to use for all this webbing and stuff like that. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 colors overall. The inside of his mouth is hard to see. It's like a purple color, and his tongue I painted blue. Just because I thought that would be fun. Really, I'd like to go and I think looking at it now, I'm going to go through and highlight, do like a dry brush on this tongue a little bit. I avoided that because I cut some of that slobber off there that was making it a little indistinguishable. So I'm a little afraid if I dry brush it, I'm going to bring out the areas where I didn't clean it off as well as I should have. But maybe I'll take that opportunity to make it look even more slobbery or something like that. Okay, that's it. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about my favorite Dungeons & Lasers model yet, the Dragon Turtle. I love this thing. I can't wait to build all this other stuff. I've still even got it on my table. I'm not sure where I'm going to put it while I'm waiting to assemble it. I need to have it kind of like looming over me. So usually I'll make a bunch of boxes and I'll put them out by my table, but there's so many, I don't know. Thanks a lot, Archon Studios, for making such a cool model at a good price. Honestly, if this was made by Games Workshop, it would cost as much as all of these packages did, just on its own. If I drove to the store and didn't have to pay shipping or anything. Then if I had to pay shipping, it would be even more. If you like this paint table update, please click like. I'd appreciate the good feedback. And leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the paint scheme or maybe what you would have done better. I'd be curious to know, especially if you got some good tips around working with the green stuff or any other kind of putty that I should try out, because I definitely need some help with that. Until next time, enjoy your games, enjoy your paintings, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.